Okay, I promise you we're going to race through this because we're going to have lunch soon. But what I want to say is that each one of us can check off one of these boxes. We're all in one of these things. And some of us are in two. And some of us are in all of them. And so if you have a check mark in any of those boxes, then this is for you. This is about what you can do. And I have a person here last year who was whispering in my ear. She's in the front row, Anna Metz. She's from Vail, Colorado. She's here today. And there's a lot of people from Vail, Colorado, where I live in the summertime, here today. And they're here because they want a CAC in Colorado. And I said, we're not going there until we get this one done. And that's up to you guys. I'm doing whatever I can. But I want to open another one in Colorado because that's where the water comes from the west. And it's very important that we deal with climate locally. So thank you, Anna. And what we need to do is speed up action. Adaptation is the key to being ready. And the whole idea is to reduce risk. We're all in the risk reduction business now. Climate is not about science, except for a few. It's about risk reduction. I think all of us have to understand that's where we are. But we can save lives and reduce damage, enhance our own life experiences, and spur the emerging climate economy. Because if we can let greed run in the climate economy, we're going to solve this problem. And we'll solve it quicker. So adaptation is very important. And simultaneously with that, we need to lower our carbon footprint to net zero as soon as possible, because we have to slow the rate of climate warming down so that then we can solve the problem. The payoff is high, extremely high, but the investment is high. So it's like anything else, high risk and high reward. And that's why this afternoon we're shifting to what is the opportunity? There's things we can do. It's time to do them. The sea level is going to rise here for the next 200 years, no matter what we do. But how fast it rises is really up to us. We can slow it down. Adaptation includes, building in resilience for buildings and into beaches and roadways and transportation, infrastructure, and codes and regulations and land use, like Elizabeth was just talking about, how we zone the land. These are all decisions that we can make. Just because it's a certain way now, we can change it if we want to. Mitigation is really slowing the rate of sea level rise, so it gives us time to adjust. And that means lowering our carbon footprint. So here's the big thing. Everyone's in one of these sectors. And the government, we expect a lot from them, and it's time that we hold them accountable to deliver. They're elected by us, they work for us, we pay the bills. And this means there's 5 things on here. You can see what they are, and they're all very important. But infrastructure and climatization projects are really key. The federal and state really drive the process, but the local governments have a role to play too. And we have to stop studying how to fix things and start fixing them. We know how to fix them. We've studied this to death now, and it placates all of us to know another study is going on. But the results are in when they're done. Let's get them done. If local governments, and I don't mean just our local government, but local governments, our state, our county, our cities, if they don't protect life and property, they've failed. That's really the only reason why government exists. All these other things we do are nice, but that's not the main role. So building codes. they need to be revised for the climate of 2050, not the climate of 1990. We're building for 1990, and we know what's coming in 2050. Why are we doing that? Building designs should be based on 2050. We've made the forecast now. It's a matter of public record. The chances of it happening are greater than 80%. When there's an 80% chance of rain, what do? You bring your umbrella. That's what we need to do. And for example, elevating critical equipment and infrastructure, mitigating flood damage, building better insulating building envelopes to deal with the extreme temperatures we're expecting. Failure to prepare for climate change is also a legal risk. And what we have now is we have this wonderful new opportunity called the IRA. It's not your IRA, it's the Inflation Reduction Act, which it's probably not going to do. But anyway, you can call it what you want, but it's a good thing. And we'll talk about that in a little bit later. But here's the thing. Every little town wants to do their own thing. They all have their own management. They don't talk to each other. It's too late for that. We have to coordinate everything we do in a regional way now to save time and to save money and to make sure our money is effective. For instance, every government now has a chief resilience officer. This position should be filled by an exceptionally trained critical thinker that reports directly to the CEO of the town, the city, or whatever. This is a critical job now. It's not something to be put in the back office somewhere. The Office of Resilience is not a person, it's a staff. If climate is really the biggest problem or one of them that we have to deal with, then we have to staff it for that. Climate impacts are one of the largest risks in Florida. Everybody knows that. So all elected officials, in my view, should get climate training as part of what they do when they come into office. They have to know what to expect. I personally have offered 2 hours to every commissioner in every government around here to sit down with me and get a fast course in climate warming. I have invited 10 so far. I've had 2 responses. I mean, that's just true. So there used to be this thing called deniable plausibility, where if you didn't know, you weren't responsible. But I think it's too late to say that anymore. So, I mean, this is a little hard-hitting, but I'm sorry. It's time. So philanthropy is another leg of the stool. It's, as David Kotok says, this may be the most important part of it. We don't want housing that's affordable in flood-prone areas because land is cheap. Because we know that these floods that Stu has been talking about that used to be 100 years are coming every 5 years. Why would you do that only to have to rebuild and cause all that misery again for people? We need to fund resilience, and you need to know your elevation, because that in Florida, do you know that 67% of all insurance premiums for single-family homes in Florida are based on one thing, the elevation. All the rest of the stuff that goes into it's only a third. Nobody knows that. So when you go out and you buy something, know your elevation. When a hurricane is coming, know your elevation. Climate only gets 2% of national philanthropy. And everybody says it's a big problem. We have to shift that too, to 10%. 10% of philanthropy should be going into climate issues, and that money has to be informed by what's coming, not what happened before. So here's the thing. The CAC in this area is the climate screen. We know what's coming. We understand the climate. We understand the risks. We can inform these decisions. But we can't make the horse drink. We can only bring the horse so far. And so what is that last lurch to get that sip of water? I really think it's all about you guys. I really do. We got to get the leaders of tomorrow going on solving the problem. And that happens here at this university, which needs to expand its programs, and climate should be one of the things they focus on. Not from the science of it, but every person that graduates is part of the climate economy from now on and part of the solution, whether they're doctors or nurses or whether they're actuaries or architects or accountants or whatever. The risk has to be accounted for in what we do. Flood maps, and we talked about this a little while ago, are really based on historical flood data. So a 100-year flood is a 100-year flood in 1990, not in 2020. So know your risks when buying real estate. Support climate-resilient infrastructure. Lower your carbon footprint. Invest your assets in the climate economy. Get educated about climate warming and impacts. We have a world-class website where tens of thousands of people read articles that we write that are for smart people, but not scientists, about how this whole thing works. Take advantage of the transitional tax incentives that are being thrown at you. If you don't know about it, you can't use them. So learn about them. As individuals, I have to say, 40% of all the world's food is thrown away. Did you know that? 24% of all the carbon of the world goes into the atmosphere growing food. Yet we throw 40% away. If you just did one thing, buy what you eat. It wouldn't go into landfills where methane is the byproduct that's 50 times more powerful as a greenhouse gas than CO2. You can do that. We don't have to change anything. Compost your waste and put it into the soil, because then the soil will grow and it will absorb water and grow better crops. Demand that city codes include recycling of food waste. We can put one more trash can in the trash bin and recycle that and make that part of trash pickup. It's an easy thing to do. It's one building code. It could be done in a day. So this is the other things you can do. Modernize your home when you can. Insist the government officials make climate risk a key. Know your trees. You've heard about planting 1 billion trees? Not all trees are the same. The 30 on her ranch sequestered 1,200 pounds of carbon in their lifetime. A palm tree sequests 50. I don't want you to tear your palm trees down. I love mine. But when you have a chance to plant, remember this. A live oak tree sequesters 10,994 pounds of carbon in its lifetime. 1 acre of mangrove, 6,400 pounds. A bald cypress, 4,800 pounds. A cabbage palm, 75. When you're designing a city, you're trying to lower your carbon footprint, we don't have to go live in a cave. But we can plant trees that matter instead of cutting them down and planting palm trees. When a new developer goes in and builds a subdivision, they should have to plant trees like this, right? We have to build roads to get there. Why can't we plant trees too? So this is just a few things about what you can do.